Hello guys, and welcome back to Strategic Command World War II World at War. In episode 1, we set up the game, we went over what some of the game mechanics were because I'm new to the game, I'm learning the game, and we took care of, I believe, everything we were going to do with Poland to get a feel for how the game ran and looked at some of the menus. In the usual turn format, we would watch an Axis turn and then do our turn, but since this is turn 1, and I'm new to the game learning how to play it, we're going to take care of turn 1 across 2 different episodes because there's probably a lot to do here. So we're going to have to pick a nation to look at and get started on. Given that I don't know too much about how the game plays, it's hard to make a long-term plan of what I want to do because I don't really know what's going to happen. But I'm assuming Poland will fall, so I'm trying to make the USSR as strong as possible. I'm going to try to use the UK to help France live as long as possible, because if there's even some remote, ahistorical chance that we can have France survive and maintain a foothold in Europe, well, that would just be game-changing, but there's a good chance I'm just too green to the game to pull something like that off. I think the next simplest country to look at is probably going to be India, because they're not even in the war yet, and all they really have are some garrisons. Their mobilization's only at 25%. I think it's safe to say we're not really going to be able to do very much with them, but I do note that the few garrisons they have are at 3 strength instead of 5. So I'm just going to go ahead and, because it's really cheap, I'm going to get those up to max strength. And we'll wait and we'll see how the events and historical occurrences for India go before we start spending anything. I don't know how to check the income of a nation yet. So I'm going to also kind of wait to see how... Oh, there's industrial modifiers. Wonder how that works. Oh, you can see belligerence is here too. That's useful. We're going to wait to see how India kind of develops. Not really do much with them this first turn, because we might end up wanting to some of that MPPs for research or something for them, or making an army. They have some pretty strict build limits, to be honest, so they can't do a whole lot. But I see we also have some... oh yeah. Some off-map transitions. This text got cut off. But for the USA, you have to like transport things from one side of the map to the other. It's quite interesting. They don't have a lot either, America. They're also, of course, not in the war. They probably won't be until Pearl Harbor happens. And they also don't have a lot of troops. So there's not a lot we can do for them except research. But I assume it's smart to get the things they do have kind of up and running. So knowing that probably they will enter the war via an attack on Hawaii, I'm going to assume it's smart to try to get this Air Force fighters up to snuff, so we're going to actually reinforce this. It was at 5 strength, it's now at 8 out of 10, because, you know, we're assuming Pearl Harbor, right? Giant air raid on Pearl Harbor. If we have fighters here, getting them up to strength seems like a good usage of the starting MPPs, I believe. They have a lot of research going on. It costs so much to research anything. I doubt we're going to get enough MPPs to research anything anytime soon anyway, so for right now, I feel like that's a good usage of America's turn. Given how simplistic it will be, there's not much else we can look at. There's a Puerto Rican garrison. There's some stuff over here that could use some strength, but I'm already out of MPPs anyway, so we're going to pretty much ignore all of that. Over on the west side in California here, all we really have are some carriers, and we are limited of having 3 or more American naval units within 30 hexes of Midway Port, according to the current limitations, the Pan-American zone. So sending those to Hawaii is probably dumb. Especially because we know what the attack is going to be coming for us, and I'm not seeing any ships here. I imagine they'll be spawned in later. I really don't know. It's kind of weird that the American fleet isn't here, so I'm going to assume this game handles things through events rather than giving you everything all at once. We could fit 1 more land or air unit here, so getting another fighter unit here might be smart later on when we have more MPPs. I've been looking over the USSR, and most of their units are pretty much up to snuff already. They have a good amount of units. Of course, it's going to be a few years before they get dragged into the war, but I was thinking, looking at it, the Western Front for them is probably going to be pretty mobile. If this is anything like history, they'll get pushed pretty far east, and then hopefully we can push back pretty far west, which has me thinking a lot of these garrisons don't have too much of a purpose over here, especially closer to the south here. Maybe up by Finland they have more of a purpose, because we can expect Finland to go to war with us due to wanting to reclaim the territory taken by the USSR's invasion of Finland in the 20s, I believe. However, I looked all the way to the east here, and I saw there's some pretty decent units over here. I saw there's like these tanks, and they seem to have some experience maybe. And these Vladivostok Corps, which actually can be given elite reinforcements, which go beyond 10. And I assume they're stronger as well, but they probably cost more. So we don't expect the USSR to go to war with Japan anytime soon. We don't need all these units over here, special forces. We might want something here, you know? And maybe that's what garrisons are best for. So I believe operationally moving a lot of the units that are over here over to the west instead might be a smart long-term strategy, especially if I can kind of send garrisons in here to replace it. Because, I mean, technically speaking, we don't know that the AI can't do ahistorical things, and that USSR might get dragged into war with Japan early. So getting these stronger units to the west could be ideal. Since moving operationally costs money, I'm not going to do it just yet, but I'm going to set it up. So we need to get this cavalry on a rail line, which I believe this is, to prepare it to be able to operationally move. Everyone else, I believe, is already on a rail line. I don't know if there's a way to view rail lines with a button. That's kind of what I plan to do with the USSR. The only thing I found that I could really spend their money on otherwise is they have an HQ here. It appears to be their only HQ for right now. And these seem to provide buffs of some kind, so it's probably important to get this up to snuff. I'm going to go ahead and max this out. I can only give it +3 right now, which is going to cost me a whole lot. HQs are expensive, so they must be important, is my thought. So I'm going to spend a lot of their MPPs reinforcing this HQ. Ideally, we want to get that up to snuff before the war begins, and we'll look at actually moving into defensive positions afterwards. I'm not 100% on how I'm going to handle this. I guess it somewhat depends on whether or not we get part of Poland or not, but I do have a plan in the works, and it involves maybe making some entrenchments or fortifications if we can. Maybe along this river, not exactly along the river like all the way, but I have an idea as a fallback location as we move the strongest units we possibly can to the west and use only the weakest units in the east. It's an idea I have. We'll see. We'll see about it. The USSR's Navy appears right now to just be limited to 2 light cruisers. And also, given the fact that they're not in the war, I guess that means we'll just kind of leave the Navy alone for now. So that pretty much takes care of, I believe, everybody that's not in the war for this turn, and takes care of how we plan on handling them in the turns to come. The most influx being India, because we kind of expect them to join the war sort of early, as they historically did. And then they're probably going to get involved in shit. I remember them being a big part of what happened in Africa, as well as Australia did as well. Looking at the mainland of France, I believe it's going to be important. I'm trying to think of how to keep France alive for as long as possible. So we know the BEF's going to show up. I want to make the Maginot as beefy as possible, and hopefully also our defense down here in the south against the Italians, which we can expect to show up. Now, I don't know how much that's really possible. One thing I'm seeing that I don't like is the fact that we actually have some corps on the front here instead of armies. That's not good. There's only 2 of them, but ideally I want to get armies there, and we happen to have exactly 2 armies in reserve. Now, I believe the BEF should show up with at least 1 army, right? Throw that together with the probably well out of their league Netherlands and Belgium units that we're bound to get once they're invaded. And I believe we should have an idea. You know, French corps assisting the BEF and these forces here. That's kind of the idea I have right now. For now, we're going to have to actually move the armies in position to kind of get over there. And I don't know if we should move directly or operationally. I feel like operationally probably makes the most amount of sense, as more expensive as it might be. We do want to definitely reinforce everybody on the front, because these guys are going to be holding the line. Let's probably start with the cores to make sure we have enough points. These cores are going to be the most vulnerable, and this army's actually a little fucked up. So we're going to put the rest of the points into reinforcing this army, which we can get up to 9 right now. Doesn't have good morale and isn't very ready. This HQ would be better off put somewhere closer to the front as well, in my opinion. Yeah, we probably don't really have the MPPs for France already out to really move these armies operationally, so we'll just move them directly, kind of get them going in the right direction. So let's start by moving this army closer down to Nancy. We're going to go ahead and move this army, well, there aren't very good locations to move it, so I believe this other army was just right here at Sedan, so we'll move this army down closer to Sedan. As a result of the strategy we're taking, we'll probably want this HQ giving whatever buffs it gives closer to the Maginot Front. So we're going to go ahead and also move up the HQ so it's closer to the front as well. I don't want to be too ballsy while looking at the Maginot, but it might be worth getting some kills in wherever we potentially can. So for example, this entrenched army here can get some kills against either one of these cores that are nearby, probably due to them being cores, and hopefully not actually take any losses themselves. So in an attempt to weaken the German front line, while most of the German units are in Poland, let's go ahead and actually do an attack on the 5th Corps here from Germany. Alright, we killed one of them. We lost nothing. That's good. I'm a bit more split on this one. This army can potentially deal 2 damage here. Luxembourg is a good little buffer, so we shouldn't have to worry too much, but this is a enemy army here, which is worth a lot more. We have the chance to kill 2 and lose only 1, because the enemy's fortifications aren't even facing us. So I think I will go ahead and try to take advantage of this here. I think that might be smart. Yeah, we don't really have a chance to get much air support currently. I don't want to start wasting anything. Let's go ahead and do this attack. Okay, that did not work out well for us at all. We lost 2 and we killed 1, so right now we're even on our losses, which I don't know if that's good or not. In the long run, that's fine because the Allies have the advantage in the long run, but I was hoping to have it be a little more decisive on what I accomplish right now, but you know, you get what you get. As for the French fleet, it's not very large. You see 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5 different ships here. It could be useful. Italy's fleet should be in similar condition historically. I don't know that for certain. But I do know that I'd like to have the French fleet focus on trying to keep control of the Mediterranean, especially because that won't be as pressing as quickly. So I'm going to try and get the French fleet kind of unified. So there's this naval cruise mode that appears to let me go faster. I assume that's because it's getting rid of my ability to attack. I don't know if it gets rid of readiness and morale. I guess we'll find out. We'll test it right now. So let's sail this destroyer. Yeah. No, that just got rid of its ability to attack. That's fine by me. We'll get this Paris battleship heading down into the Mediterranean as well. Shouldn't have to worry about any German subs in here at the moment. And this battleship actually does need some more points, so we'll repair it once it's over here united with the current fleet. As for the sub, let's see if the Italians have anything over in Sardinia. Anything? Nope, nothing in Sardinia. What else? Where else can we look? Do you have anything over here? Alright. So there is an Italian sub here that we have to, I guess, keep in mind that it exists. I'm just kind of doing recon with a sub for right now to see where the Italian Navy is located and then back that off and we'll go looking around. My idea is most of the Italian Navy is probably going to be in here. I guess that's where I remember it being. And if we could just blockade that, then the French fleet should be able to keep the Italians pretty much contained. That's my thought anyway. We'll have to set that up. Now, as for the Brits, things on land simplify and things on sea complicate dramatically, as this is the core of our fleet right now. But for land, it's actually so simple, we only really need to look at air, in fact, because that's all we really have. We have a bunch of garrisons and stuff spread throughout the map for the Brits. The most Brits are probably in Egypt, but that's more of an Italian thing, so we don't really have to look over here until that becomes a concern, which for right now, It's not. We're going to focus our attention where the war is actually raging right now. So we do have British air we could use to help with the defense of France. However, it's a little bit out of date. 2 of them need to be upgraded, and 1 of them needs to be reinforced. So we're going to try to get started on this. So I'm going to upgrade this fighter with Advanced Fighters Upgrade. This comes from research, as you can see. It's going to modify the stats and make them better. So we're going to upgrade that. So it's going to do that. It can't move for right now. Looks like we can also upgrade towns with AA defense. That's kind of cool. We're going to upgrade this bomber with naval weaponry. Well, we're going to reinforce you right now. 75 MPPs to get you up to max strength. We cannot upgrade right now. I don't care too much about the naval weaponry right now for you. I don't think that's as important as dealing with the land targets that we're going to have to deal with. We have some strat bombers, which are probably going to be best at just bombing cities and dealing with enemy supplies. I'm not going to send them in until I get the British fighters in, because I don't trust the French fighters to protect them by themselves when they're currently going to be eating the brunt of the enemy forces, and I don't have the French MPPs to actually fix them up right now. So the British air is going to be staying at home for right now and upgrading and reinforcing and preparing for war. Now the British Navy, on the other hand, is going to have to ideally deal with the German Navy and very quickly hopefully stop any German subs from returning home or from getting out. That's the situation as I see it. So we're going to be a little split up unless I push everyone in one spot. But we're going to try to unify everybody. We're going to make 2 different formations for right now. And then afterwards, we're going to go from there. So first things first, we do have a submarine here. And I do see a German supply route here. So we should be able to actually use our submarine, theoretically, and raid this, if I'm not mistaken. I don't actually know how that works, though. So I'm looking into it. I can't really find it much in the manual, but I believe that I should raid this after I hit, like, end turn. The convoy should be raided. I don't know if I can see how much this is worth. No, I can just see that there's a convoy here. I believe if it's, if it's automated like, like this one, then I'm guaranteed to get something, but I think the AI can turn down the manual ones like this as well. And I don't think you can raid land-based convoys, and I don't even know if they show, to be honest, on the convoy map. If they do, and I don't think any are really present right now. I imagine more will appear on here as the time goes on. Maybe you can't make them yourself. I'm pretty confident of that. So with that settled, let's continue to kind of get things in position. So, all right, we want to probably be careful about sailing things up, because we could get attacked while we get our ships in position. That is entirely possible. Well, alright, so this is closer up to the north, so let's send the courageous carrier up north. The carriers have planes with which to perform air raids. That's probably pretty important. We have battleships here, battle cruisers. Oh boy, so much stuff to take care of. We don't seem to have a lot of destroyers, which is a little bit concerning. We definitely want to make a shield around the carriers themselves. Let's send the Jersey destroyer up in the front of the formation here. Let's send the Norfolk heavy cruiser to guard it on that side. And from there, let's send this light cruiser forward, actually. Is something we'll do. It was actually on a dock. Interesting. We have another light cruiser. So what I'm going to do here, actually, is I'm going to pull back this battleship for now. I'm going to move this light cruiser up here, and I'm going to move this battle cruiser up forward. So we're pretty much defending the carriers up north here. We got a formation going, and now we have some southern ships to look at that can't quite easily make it up north, but it shouldn't be too much of a problem. We got a real thin strip that we can deal with here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send a destroyer, let's say right about... Let's not push up too far. Let's say right about here. We're going to pair it with a heavy cruiser. And then behind that, we will put our battleship. And we will put Oh, the battlecruiser can't actually get there in one turn, so we'll just put it up as far as it can go. And I believe that's all the ships around here taken care of for right now. There are more British ships to deal with, however. And any UK ships specifically, I think I'm going to want to get heading up to the north. There is a UK submarine down here by Egypt, which needs a lot more strength. I don't have very many MPPs remaining. Can also get some upgrades. No, that's the port. Let's reinforce it with what we can. We're out of MPPs now. But we have some more ships to move. I'm going to try to unify the main British fleet is what I'm going to try to do. There's an Australian fleet all the way down here that needs some repairs and attention as well. I'm going to leave that in Australia to maybe help against the Japanese later on, especially because I can't really give it my attention right now. So we're going to get now all this crap moving. We probably want to do this on cruise mode to really speed up how far we can get. So cruise mode. I'm not going to worry too much about anything that we might run into. Don't know if that's smart or not. But we're going to start moving these ships north to unify them with the main British fleet, which we're going to hopefully kill the German fleet with. That's my goal here. Alright, let's get you moving towards the Gibraltar. I see the Axis can move things past the Gibraltar with a little one-turn event. It's probably mainly supposed to be for submarines, if I had to guess. Let's put the carrier right here so it's protected with those French ships. And we have a battleship that we need to move as well. We'll put it over right there as well. Alright, and then that should account for all the British ships. That submarine is going to be repairing. We don't have the MPPs to repair anything in Egypt, so again, we don't have to right now, so we're not going to pay attention to it. Same thing with Australia. We don't have MPPs to do anything there, so we're not going to. The UK is out of MPPs. That pretty much takes care of the UK's Navy and their Air Force. And so now we have one final front to look at and make our final moves for the start here, and that is going to be China. So it looks like it's going to be much harder over here on the Chinese front. We have very basic, like minimal tech, quantity units against superior Japanese forces that actually have their first upgrade. So even when we're like an army versus an army, we are still disadvantaged because our stats are lower. It's going to make it pretty hard to do anything around here. So up here at the very north near Peking, we are just 2 corps staring down a corps and an army. Not very good, but there is an HQ here. In fact, China has a lot of HQs and they're all like war ready at 10 out of 10. So let's go ahead and reinforce this corps to max. Gonna lose some of its experience by reinforcing. I guess that makes sense. And so that's taken care of. I don't think I'm really going to move. I think I'm just going to sit here and enjoy the entrenchment, let them come to me. That's probably going to have to be the strategy in a lot of China, because Japan is going to try to be killing us in China. They're on the offensive. They have to kill us. They want to kill us. It's the only way they can free up their troops, and it's our goal to probably really more than anything bog them down. The historical is anything to go by. We do have a corps all the way in the south down here that's on the verge of death on the front, so we definitely don't want to keep that there. We want to retreat this somewhere smart. I'm thinking right here is a good place to plug in the gap to protect this HQ. You can also have some entrenchment. So I'm going to pull this back, give that ground to the enemies, and then hopefully next turn I'll be able to reinforce them. I can't really do it right now, unfortunately. Just behind the front here, I notice we have an engineer unit, which I believe can make fortifications. And I see a good spot for fortifications right here, because this is probably going to be where a lot of the Japanese fighting happens. At least that's my guess. So we're going to go ahead and move this up there. And then I guess, maybe, can I do this right now? Oh, I guess I can. So I can fortify this, and the amount, looks like it's free. Looks like I don't have to pay for it. It's just the amount of sides makes it take longer. So what sides do we really need here? Now, northeast, clearly we need that. Southeast, very important because, I mean, theoretically that would fall eventually. And probably, I'd imagine, to the north would be smart as well. We could also make another side and point it south. And, well, I'm going to treat the town as a fortification of its own, really. Because this is more just like a rear fortification behind this line here. I think this will do at pushing off any aggressing Japanese. At least I certainly hope so. That's the idea I have here. Maybe it's better to just do two sides facing across the river and just ignore this right here and just hope that army can hold it. But given that this is where a lot of the Japanese are going to show up, I feel safer doing this. So we're going to start fortifying, and this is just me also figuring out how this works, of course. Spread along the front, further to the north, we have some units that could use some reinforcements. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and reinforce to max. Reinforce to max. We got some corps, we got some armies. Reinforce to max. That leaves us with only 55 MPPs. We're really not going to be moving a lot of stuff because, well, we're waiting. We're letting them come to us and kind of dealing with the situation. I am, however, going to move these two right here. Actually, I don't know about these two. This one's an army. Oh, okay. This isn't a corps. This is an army. That's important. Well, alright, in that case, tell you what. I'm going to take this corps, I'm going to move it up into the mountains where it can entrench and then maybe scare the Japanese, lure them in here. We actually just spotted an entire Japanese army defending this town. That's pretty crazy. I'm going to take this army and move it up into this mountain, which has a similar defensive bonus, and try to scare them further. We'll figure out what to do with this corps after that, and we'll have these two corps continue to kind of hold the line over here against the enemies. This army on the front concerns me a little bit because it's not on a spot that can be entrenched. It's in a marsh. That could be bad, it could be good. Now, it's also defending against the river, which I guess is good. Like, I'd want to move it to, like, what I feel is a more defensible location because I don't want it to die, because it's clearly the weak link on this front. But I don't want to open up the unfortified south for this fortification right here. So I guess I am going to leave it there and hope to God I'm making the right decision. We have a fighter unit here, which has taken some damage. I'm going to max this out, 35 MPPs. It's the one thing defending us against the Japanese there right here, even though the Chinese fighters are probably terrible. I'd like to have it up to snuff. I see a good opportunity to move some corps around behind me, namely taking the corps that's on our wartime capital of Chongqing, moving it down south to this fortification since this area is not the most defended, and then taking this corps and moving it east to Chongqing, because I don't think Chengdu will be in any threat anytime soon given what the surroundings of it look like. In fact, if we could end up just, moving all the corps and armies east and leaving only garrisons behind, if we did even that, that would probably be ideal. And with that, I believe we have finally finished turn 1. With all the setup and learning how the game works, this definitely took a little bit. But next episode, we will get into what will be the usual pattern for this game of starting it up, watching the Axis do their turn, and then doing our turn in response. I hope you guys are enjoying this series so far. Even though I'm not very far into the game and I'm a little overwhelmed by a bunch of stuff I don't know, I'm definitely having fun with it. Let me know how you think the war's gonna go with the minuscule planning I've done so far, and I guess I'll see you guys on the next one.